Picture a guy from the US who's decided it's time to spread his wings and get out of the town he's pretty much never left. He heads to some distant land he knows absolutely nothing about, and from the moment he gets there, he's somehow incredibly popular. No sooner than he's learned how to order a bottle of beer in the local language, he's hooked up with someone. But as some of you well-traveled viewers might know, what happens in the bedroom in the United States might not happen everywhere. This guy soon finds himself completely out of his depth and wondering what he's gotten himself into. Make sure you don't make the same mistake by watching this to find out some of the most confounding sexual practices you've ever heard of in your life. Let's start in Indonesia, where there's a pilgrimage people take to a place called Mount Kemukus, aka Sex Mountain. Every year, folks from all across Indonesia head to this part of Central Java for, you guessed it, sex. But it's more than just that, it's sex with a complete stranger. As the story goes, a long time ago a prince eloped from his town with a woman and tried to have a fun time there. They didn't quite finish the job and were chased away by soldiers and later killed. A kind of ritual has since emerged, which involves going there and meeting a stranger. Only this time they do what the prince and his lover couldn't and finish the job. And that's not all, they must continue to meet up and do so 7 more times throughout the year. If they end up fulfilling the quota, they'll then be blessed with good fortune, which we're sure is the only reason that men and women flock there, married or not, to hook up with a stranger. If you're thinking, no way that's a real thing, think again. In 2014, the governor of the province of Central Java laid down restrictions on what happens there. He banned the practice, saying it was not moral and there was a risk of contracting various diseases. He also said it made Indonesia look bad in the eyes of other countries. We'll let you decide if he was right about that last part. Still, Indonesian news reports in 2017 said the stalls and huts erected for the deed had reopened, and people were getting it on for good luck once again. You see, the business had been booming there before it was all closed down. Many people enjoyed the freedom of the ritual, and in turn, that provided lots of business for locals at Sex Mountain. When the ritual was banned, they lost their means of making money. The entry fee alone was around 50 cents, which doesn't sound like much, but on good nights there were about 8,000 pilgrims. In the past, when all huts and stalls weren't around, the people just did it behind trees, so you could call the enterprising locals a good thing for everyone. They even opened karaoke stalls to perhaps get people in the mood. You might wonder if the fortune actually does shine down on the pilgrims after their year of hooking up is over. Well, one woman who'd partaken told Australian News, "Praise be to God, after coming here, even though I have a few debts, my business is making a bit of a profit." Next up is a nomadic tribe in West Africa called the Wadabi. They don't have a written language themselves, but this word has been translated as people of the taboo. What's taboo in many parts of the world is having more than one marriage partner, which is known as polygamy. This tribe doesn't mind at all though. In fact, they embrace it. Every year, there's something called the Gariwol Festival, and during the big party that happens, the guys get dressed up to the nines to show their beauty. In fact, this tribe might just think it has the most beautiful men in the world. These people are also what you might call especially liberated, having no qualms about the very natural things that often makes Westerners blush. The men, with painted faces and feathers on their head, dance and look wonderful for the onlooking women in the tribe. It's said they take a kind of drink that helps them to dance for hours on end and also provides a hypnotic effect. It's like a very colorful beauty contest, because then all the women will choose the most attractive men. If the women are partnered with someone already, no problem, they can put themselves forward as someone who wants to steal another man as a new husband. If they don't want to go all out and steal a guy, they can just elect to sleep with him. If the guy walks past her, she just needs to brush him on the shoulder and they will be together. It totally doesn't matter about the previous partner. The guys don't get much say in the matter though. There are some rules, however. Usually when a woman is old enough, an arranged marriage will take place. Once she becomes pregnant, she goes to live with her mom and can't see the husband. After some time, she can go back to him, but she might just decide during the festival to sleep with another guy or steal one. One tribesman told National Geographic, "We get to go to the Gariwol for pleasure. I get a woman, then fine, it's a bonus. When a guy is incredibly hot, he's called Keijo Naado, hurting man, because he's so gorgeous it hurts to look at him." And just to set things straight, you have the word polygamy, which means marriage between more than two people. Then you have polygyny, which is when a man has more than one wife. And then there's polyandry, when a woman has more than one husband. It's not all that common, but it happens in various parts of the world. It's somewhat different from having a mistress though. In Thailand, a man may often take what the Thais call Mia Noi, which literally means small wife, often called a second wife by Westerners. It's not actually legal in Thai law, but you have a documented marriage and you also have an undocumented marriage, in which a wedding ceremony still happens, but nothing is officially signed. In the past, when women have had fewer opportunities, this was widespread, but not so much now. In 2021, a video went viral in Thailand that features a man secretly marrying another wife. The guy in question, a cop, got the shock of his life when his real wife's mother-in-law walked into the ceremony and gave him a hard smack across the head. The attending monks were less than impressed, but despite the chaos, the ceremony went ahead. His real wife, who later showed news cameras their marriage certificate, was understandably angry, seeing as they'd been together 15 years and had 2 kids. Believe it or not, in the past, Thai women's magazines would say tolerating such a thing was the mark of a good wife. Maybe a small wife might be too much, but many Thai women have turned a blind eye to a man for having what you might call a bit on the side. That's what Thais call a gik. To understand this, you have to understand what some Thais now think of as outdated traditional values. These old values held that there was something called kulasatri, which meant an ideal woman. She was demure, quiet, and certainly wasn't outwardly sexual. She wasn't even meant to have sexual thoughts. Meanwhile, male masculinity was defined by something called chai chatri. Under this, men were supposed to have irrepressible, uncontrollable sexual desires that could never be limited to their one spouse. It doesn't seem fair to most of us and wouldn't be seen as fair by most modern Thais either, but it still happens, quite a lot. This is evident in a Durex poll that had Thais top of the infidelity ratings, and before you ask, this has nothing to do with Thailand's notorious red light districts, which only actually make up a few streets in the entire country. It's actually these old cultural values that pervade most of the nation and lead to a culture of infidelity. Not to say women will tolerate cheating these days, or at least the majority of women won't. That's perhaps reflected in the fact that Thailand is arguably the leader in penis reattachment surgery. This has led to the international media asking why Thailand has an epidemic of penile amputations. There's even an old saying men sometimes say to other men, about which goes, "I better get home or the ducks will have something to eat." The men are often hypocrites too, given that many men have a zero tolerance when their ideal woman cheats. It can often and does regularly lead to him killing her. You might wonder why the second wives marry the guy. It's often down to financial security or just the security of keeping him. The first wife might not want to break up with the guy, either because women divorcing men is frowned upon in traditional settings, or because she has limited opportunities in life to take care of the family he'll leave behind. The woman whose mother whacked the cheating husband was well aware he had a gik, but she turned a blind eye to it. She told reporters, "I initially did not think that my husband would wed. Before the wedding, he was still staying at home with me, and he told me he would be going out to work a night shift at his station." In some cultures, having more than one spouse is not just accepted, it's normal. Academic studies, for instance, have shown that in parts of India, China, and Nepal, a woman might have more than one husband. One such paper published in 2019 was titled "Marital Satisfaction and Well-Being Among Fraternal Polyandrous and Monogamous Tribal People of Kinnar." Fraternal polyandry is when one woman is married to 2 or more brothers, and Kinnar is a district in northern India. The paper concluded this after spending time with some of these families. The result, based on qualitative research, revealed that polyandrous couples' physical health, economical, and psychological well-being is better, and they feel positive toward life. But why is that? The paper said those families felt secure together and they had financial security. It said a woman in those tribes with only one husband felt less financially secure than a woman who had married 2 or more brothers. The brothers also said they felt more secure. The Toda tribe of South India have also practiced these kind of marriages, but that may have now stopped. Still, it was explained that when a child is born to one of the brothers, he would hand the wife a bow and arrow and become the father of the child. If another child was born to another brother, he would do the same. In certain regions of India, Nepal, and Tibet, various practices of polygamy happened throughout history, although it's not common now. In a northern part of India called Jansarbawar, in some places a woman would marry the eldest son and then she immediately became the wife of all his younger brothers. It got tricky though, since the brothers could have more than one wife if their older brother was much older and the age difference was vast between his brothers and the wife. In that case, a brother could find his own new wife. If all the brothers stayed together with the one wife, none of them had any kind of exclusive right to her. All brothers were seen as equal and the kids looked on them as one father. In some countries in the recent past, such as parts of Tibet, the eldest brother would be seen as the main husband. A study published in 2008 said among the villages of Shigaz and Kamdo in Tibet, it was found that 20 to 50% of families were made up of a wife and 2 husbands. In some more remote areas, the researchers said 90% of the families were polyandric. To understand why, just imagine how difficult life is in some of those unforgiving mountainous areas. Weird to us maybe, but arguably an act of survival for others. Laws in Tibet have long since made it illegal, but the marriage will sometimes be documented between the wife and just the eldest brother. In most countries, a man's member is kept locked firmly behind closed doors, where it's barely noticeable unless he's wearing his favorite pair of tight Speedos. In some of the more remote parts of New Guinea, though, that's not always the case. There, the penis can have its own clothing accessory. This is called a koteka, which looks something like a gourd and covers the penis while being strapped to the waist. It can be long and thin or short and wide and can point in any direction that the wearer chooses. Obviously, when a man is working, a smaller koteka would be preferable. But if they're worn as a way of attracting a female, though, it's still up for debate. It might be only worn as a way of covering up as well as a way of looking good. Still, you have to wonder if some women favor a bigger koteka. The Sambia people of Papua New Guinea are heavily focused on what you might refer to as the warrior culture. When the boys are very young, usually around the age of 7, they're taken away from their mothers. In some ways, this is to toughen them up, and there are some comparisons to the training known as Paides in the ancient Sparta. But with the Sambia, it's because the boys need to be detached from what's believed to be the contaminated blood of the mother. It's said that in each woman there's something called Tingu, which has the power to manipulate men. When the boy gets a little older, he might be around younger women who also have Tingu in their blood. Since her Tingu gets stronger during her menstrual period, during that time a woman is kept away from males completely. Okay, so if women have this sorcery that they can use to manipulate men, how do couples ever get together? Well, when the boys are old enough, they are taught how to safely have sex without being trapped by a woman's Tingu. One way is to kind of disassociate himself from her and not get too heated in the act of sex. He should also try to prevent her from enjoying herself too much, lest she make him become sick and he possibly die. Once copulation is over, he goes through a bloodletting ceremony which is supposed to decontaminate him of her Tingu. This happens until she gets pregnant, and then after she has the child, he can become a fully fledged warrior. In the 1990s, people who visited these very remote tribes said times were apparently changing though. Supposedly something called love marriage was occurring from time to time. And in those marriages, they didn't include all the fear and ceremony we've just described. In a 2006 book, the writer called this shift nothing less than revolutionary. While many of us take kissing for granted, this romantic, full-on, juices shared lips bitten kind of affair is utterly disgusting to people in some cultures. Researchers at the University of Nevada explained that when the Mehinaku of Brazil were asked about kissing, the general reply was that it was gross, with one asking, "Why would you want to share your dinner with someone?" Fair point, and let's be honest, no one wants to see anyone devouring each other's tonsils on the subway. In another paper, researchers found in some other cultures that there was no kissing at all. The Aka Pygmies didn't do it, and when questioned about sex, they said it was basically to make a child and nothing more. One person referred to sex as a night's work. According to the website This Is Africa, the Tonga tribe in Mozambique think much the same way, saying kissing is unhygienic, and when they see Westerners do it, they just think about someone eating dirt. And the last, but certainly not least strange romantic custom comes from Iran. There they have something known as Sayhohu, which means a man and a woman can have a temporary marriage, explore each other's bodies, and if after some amount of time they decide they're not right for one another, they can annul the marriage with ease. You might ask why someone would do this, and doesn't it sound a lot like short marriages in the US? Well, for one thing, this marriage might only last for an hour, or perhaps a day, or maybe even a few days, which even in the US would be very unusual. You see, in Iran, just getting it on with someone you aren't married to is considered sinful and also illegal. That's one reason why men meet women online and then they head to the city, get a temporary marriage, book a hotel room, do what they have to do, then get divorced. As human rights advocates have pointed out, since not being a virgin before marriage is also considered sinful, this can have negative effects on women in the long run. It's also been called a way of having legal prostitution. The Iranian cyber police have said some websites will even help with a match and then do all the paperwork for the marriage. They can even book someone a hotel. It's like Tinder, Airbnb, and a priest all in the same app. Sayhohu is supposed to provide a way for a woman to keep her chastity since she is technically married when she has sex, but she still becomes stigmatized after. This is what one young Iranian man had to say about the practice. "If I temporarily marry a young woman for 3 years and then divorce her, would anyone be willing to marry her? It would be impossible that any man would want to have a family with this woman." Still, some Iranian women have happily made use of the law. One woman told the New York Times about her relationship. "We went out a lot together and I didn't want to get into trouble. We wanted to have documents so that if we were stopped on the street, we could prove that we weren't doing anything illegal. She and her husband renewed their marriage after 6 months and then they did it again. We don't know how things ended though." A British-Canadian woman in 2015 talked to The Guardian about her dating experience in Iran. She said she was hounded by police and others while out in public with a man, asking how they knew each other and what they were up to. She said, "In public, I had to face the opposite direction and pretend to read." She got a temporary marriage and said it actually allowed her and her lover to live a normal life. "It was like a bubble. We were in love and no one bothered us. It was beautiful," she said. A month later, and she was on the plane out of there. But there's a happy ending. It took some time, but he eventually moved to the UK and they were remarried in London, this time for longer than a day. Now you need to watch Taboos Around the World or learn to impress with this scientifically proven best way to kiss.